Hi everybody, this is Anne. I think one of the biggest challenges we face as potters is how to achieve unique and creative results. As such, it can help to pull apart the anatomy of the pot and then select one aspect to alter. In this video, I thought it'd be fun to change up the bottoms of the pots. I'll show you 3 altered feet designs and how to attach them to hand-built mugs. First, let's try a simple stenciled bottom. I rolled out a 1/4 inch thick slab and ribbed it. I placed plastic wrap over it and turned it over so the wrap was on the bottom. This particular cup has just the right size opening for my purposes. I used it to imprint 2 circles in the clay with plenty of clearance around and in between them. I found this stencil in my local craft store. I love the architectural patterns. I placed the stencil down just over one of the circles exactly as I wanted it, and then rolled my rolling pin down to imprint that over the surface. I wanted just a little of all 4 patterns to show. Now to the other circle. I'm using this carpet tube as a form for my mug, so I know the bottom diameter will be perfect for my next step. I centered the tube inside my cup imprint and cut all the way through like a cookie cutter. I cut the 2 circle sections apart. I peeled the cut circle from the plastic and scored the bottom along the cut edge. I wet the circumference of the stenciled circle and then fit the cut circle over the stenciled one. The top circle should keep its round shape as it's stabilized by the excess clay around it. I wet my finger and began working the top circle down over the bottom one to stick them together and seal the inner seam. I used a needle tool to begin tracing around the outer edge where I'll cut away the excess clay. I continued cutting all the way down and removed all the excess clay from both circles. I worked until all the debris was cleaned up. Both slabs were connected and it looked professional. I thought it'd make a nice touch to round off the bottom, so I'm using this 8-inch styrofoam half sphere to do it. Keeping the circle on the plastic wrap, I placed it over the styrofoam and gently pushed on the edges, rounding it down to the form. Now I'll show you how to make the mug to go with it. I again rolled out a 1/4 inch slab between 2 rulers. I have a template for a rectangle which fits perfectly around my carpet tube. I'll cut that out. I like to use my beveling tool on the edges for the perfect fit. I beveled the first short edge, then turned the slab upside down and beveled the other short edge. I gently curled both edges of the clay to give it a memory so it wouldn't try and flatten back out along the seam. I scored both edges and slipped one of them. If your clay is really wet, use a little cornstarch on the slab to keep it from sticking to the form. I then fashioned the slab around the carpet tube and smoothed the edges together with my red rubber rib. If you'd like to see a more complete video on how I make this style of mug, check out the link above. I turned over the cylinder and worked the clay edge up a little bit over the tube. I want to create a nice wide edge for the foot to sit on. I pushed that extra clay down over the rim of the tube and flattened it out. Now I can put the rounded bottom on top and make sure that the two fit well together. You may have to flatten the top a little more or push the walls inward a bit to fit under the bottom. It's best to take the two back apart. Also take the body off the form and let the two dry to leather hard slowly before attaching them together. I have two that I already made that are now leather hard. I turned the body over and scored the top edge. I turned the bottom over and scored the bottom edge. I slipped one of the edges, then attached the two together and sealed the seams along the outside. To seal the inside of the mug, I used the wooden end of a paintbrush to push the extra clay from the body down over the bottom edge and really strengthen that seal. I then smoothed it with the brush side of the paintbrush. Here's what it looks like on the outside. What a nice surprise when the mug is tipped up for drinking. To decorate the body, I carved circles on the body to match the ones on the bottom and carved the arrows along the handle. To finish this piece, I underglazed the circles on the body, then brushed my white glaze around all the circles in the bottom. I used Amico Marigold Celadon glaze on the borders for this bright, whimsical look. Let's do another one. I'm using the same technique of imprinting the yellow cup along the sides of the slab. This time, I'll use the whittled down edge of a square dowel rod. Jim did this with a rotary tool. Starting along the center line, I impressed the tool. I love that quilted look that it gives due to the wood grain. I again cut out the other circle using the butt of the carpet tube as a cookie cutter in the center. I peeled it up and scored around the edge and slipped one of the edges. I fit the two pieces together and pressed the top gently to connect to the bottom circle. I did a better job cutting away the excess clay from around the two forms this time. To get a better seal along that inner edge, I used a fingernail detailing brush to work the clay together. I then wet my fingers and really worked the sides smooth. I really like the dome appearance, so I moved the piece on top of the styrofoam half sphere to shape it. Here's one that I made earlier where I carved similar diamond designs into the side to match the quilted design on the bottom. To finish it, I glazed the borders with Amico Sky Blue. I underglazed and wiped back the design on the body, then glazed it with Amico Clear Glaze C11. The bottom quilted design really adds a touch of class to an otherwise simpler mug design. Finally, I'll show you how I create a dragon scale designed bottom. I started like the other two with the same circle designs, except I didn't do any patterning to the bottom circle. It's totally blank at this point. I sealed the two together, then cut away the excess clay. I created a mark in the center of my clay. You'll see why later. I again fit the piece over the styrofoam half sphere, making sure the clay was domed. This is very important for this particular design. Now I'll be using this dragon scale tool that I found on Amazon. There's a link in the description section if you want to check that out. I laid the tool along the rim of the border and made sure the tool was positioned towards the center mark that I made. I pushed the tool slightly into the clay to create this pattern. I continued with this, making sure that my tool was always positioned to the center. You can see how pushing the tool into the clay causes it to push backwards and create bulging in the center. That's why working on that domed surface is so critical. I liked that design but wanted to add more layers. I continued making a second row staggered over the first row. I thought one more row would be really pretty, so I did one more pass. Each row causes higher bulging in the center, but the elevation of the outer rim still sits higher, so it'll sit flat on the table when you turn it over. Finally, I impressed this little cog in the center to give it a focal point. Here's one that I made earlier and decorated with similar scale types of designs, but a little more on the leafy side. You can see how the body and the bottom complement each other nicely. Here it is all decorated. I underglazed the leaves, then clear glazed over top of them. On the borders, I brushed on Amico Suaro Celadon glaze. If you want to think outside your box, I suggest turning the box completely upside down and start there. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the link to buy me a coffee. It also really helps us out if you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you next time in the studio.